Few words of thanks. The Avenir Center was great to work with all week. New Brunswick Combat Sports Commission made it very easy, did a great job, we thought, this week. And of course the fans, we looked at the ticket reports, we saw fans from all over Atlantic Canada, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, PEI, Nova Scotia. Sort of a testament to, I think, how well the sport's growing out here. Bonuses tonight, fight of the night went to Tibaguti and Hackparast. And the performance bonuses to Don Madge and Anthony Smith. Attendance was 6,282, and the gate was 692,000 Canadian dollars.
692,000, you said?
692,000. Attendance was 6,282.
Okay. Just how did you feel about the venue tonight and just the crowd and everything? Was that what you guys expected out of the city? I know there was some comments about maybe some empty seats and stuff. Yeah,
I mean, for us, we've talked about this before, right? Our investment is for the long term. We want to make sure we're in Atlantic Canada. Every couple of years, we were in Halifax a year and a half ago. A couple of years before that, we were in our first event in Halifax. So for us, it's important to get to New Brunswick as well. We hadn't been to Moncton before. As I said before, the arena was great to deal with, and no doubt we'll be back.
How did it go with the commission? It's a young commission, and it hasn't dealt with any event of this magnitude before. Noticed like at the weigh-ins, it took a lot of time. Anyways, how was it with the commission, the New Brunswick Commission?
So, we work with the commission for a lot longer than just Fight Week. Mark Ratner and his team spend a lot of time working with him in preparation, making sure everything's in place, and we thought they did a great job. I mean, these things, for the growth of the sport, we need to be working closely with commissions that are nascent, that are burgeoning, that are mature, and we think these guys have a long future. They did a great job. We were very pleased. A bit methodical with the scale, but that's fine. I mean, as long as things are correct and handled properly and done with integrity, then that's what's important to us.
Lots of boxing background judges. Any comment on the judging tonight?
No comments on the judging. I mean, I think there were a couple rounds that didn't make sense, but it's in the eyes of the beholder. I don't think anyone tonight got robbed of a victory. I mean, I think things went generally pretty smoothly.
What's next for Atlantic Canada for the UFC? Do you plan on going back to Halifax, maybe Newfoundland? PI's small, but
no.
What's in plan?
I mean, we haven't finalized any plans. We're going to be back in Canada next year 3 times. We haven't been to Montreal in a while. We haven't been to Vancouver in a while. We've had great success in Alberta in the last couple of years. This summer with Calgary, last September with Edmonton. We've got Toronto upcoming. So our plan, as we've mentioned before, is to try to get it from BC to Nova Scotia and everywhere in between. And so no plans yet, but we will definitely be back at some point in the next year or two.
Do you feel like to go back to Montreal, you guys need a pretty big fight? Because I know the last time there, the upper balcony was tarped off and stuff. It wasn't the biggest crowds we've seen in there.
I think that was DJ and
Horiguchi, I want to say.
And Horiguchi, that's right. 182 maybe.
Yeah. One of those cards. They all blend together at this point. But.
I know. I mean, Montreal's a pay-per-view city.
Yeah.
And we've been to Montreal several times with George. Always hopeful that the timing lines up properly for him to fight in Quebec. I mean, we think that would be the perfect storm. We do feel like we want to go to Montreal with a pay-per-view card, and so sometimes it's not just as easy as saying, okay, we want to go in April and we want to go to Montreal. We've got to see when the dates line up. It's challenging in Canada because the dates in a lot of arenas are occupied by the NHL teams, and of course in Toronto it's like booked every night. So we will go back to Montreal at some point. Hopefully it's next year, maybe the year after.
Mm-hmm. And any other expansion plans? There's been some rumblings, maybe Russia again next year. I've heard some things about St. Petersburg or anything you guys are looking at going back there anytime soon? Yeah, I mean we want to be back in Russia next year, at least once, maybe twice. We've got our second event in China this year, in Beijing in November. We'll go back to China next year. I think for 2019, we'll continue to look to a few new South American markets. I mean, this year, Chile in May, upcoming in Argentina. We're looking at Colombia, we're looking at Uruguay, we're looking at Peru. So nothing concrete yet. What we're going through right now is this process with ESPN trying to lock in a lot of our dates. Right.
It's probably come a bit later than it has in the past, but that's just because we're new partners. And in addition to that, there's a few European markets that we want to get to for the first time as well. And you heard Özdemir talk about France. It'd be important to get to France. Nothing concrete yet, but we're working hard on it.
I know you mentioned China. Any possibility of other Asian markets? When we see Japan obviously has a historic connection. We've heard all this talk about one and everyone else operating in the area.
I mean, we definitely want to get back to China. As I mentioned before, I think there's a few other markets that are starting to make sense. It'd be great to get to Thailand at some point, Philippines as well. But our first order of business is to lock in the China show. Singapore might also make sense next year. We've got a good relationship with the city. We've got a few things upcoming, but nothing concrete yet that I can share publicly.
When do you think we'll know some 2019 dates and the schedule and
pretty
stuff?
Soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon. I mean, we've locked in Q1 almost to the full extent. We've got a couple dates that we're still shifting around, but we should be coming out probably in the next couple weeks with pretty firm dates and locations and platforms for 2019. I mean, this is a real change, right? We're going to go where we've got pay-per-view dates, we've got linear TV dates on ESPN in the US and, to be named broadcaster at some point in Canada and the rest of the world. And then we've got ESPN Plus digital distributed events. So those will come out soon, probably in the next couple weeks.
Just last thing from me. As far as the 2019 schedule for Canada, I know you said 3 times. Is it going to be similar to this year where it's backloaded a lot, or do you think we might see a Canadian event sometime in the first quarter, half of 2019?
Yeah, hopefully in the first 4 or 5 months. I mean, it's not bad doing it this way, but we had Calgary in July, Moncton in October, now we've got Toronto in early December. It's much better when we're able to spread it out.
Sure.
Canadian dates are actually pretty tough, right? Because you don't really want to come between April and May because the whole country's consumed with hockey.
Yeah.
And then you know how it works in the summer where people like taking time off. It's kind of like Europe, like we try to stay away from Europe in the summer because traditionally it's vacation time.
Right.
So that's why this Toronto early December date has been pretty successful for us. We had lots of success in Edmonton in September last year. But to answer your question, we will try to spread things out, I think more evenly over the course of the year. There's a few things we got to work out first.
So Germany's going to get another show next year, or probably
hope so. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We've just launched a new relationship with DAZN in Germany, and from what we can tell, we talked to Peter Sabata this week, and he was pretty pleased with the way things worked out. He and I have had lots of conversations over the past, throughout this year about what to do in the TV space in Germany. So I think with the DAZN relationship, we've now got the benefit of like a real marketing machine. These guys are investing a lot of money, and it's going to help us. Grow the sport, grow the fan base. So hopefully next year, yeah.
So the first 2 times it's been Berlin, and now it's been Hamburg 2 times. So it's likely going to stay in Hamburg, or are you looking?
We don't know yet. Yeah, we've been to Oberhausen
Cologne.
And Cologne. That's right. But yeah, TBD.
I think for France, you mentioned soon-ish, but I mean, it's still illegal in France, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So how do you approach that?
Well, I mean, we've been working for many years on getting the ban of MMA overturned. And, we've started to see there was a bit of reshuffling that happened in the Ministry of Sport in France. And we've started to see a bit of progress towards the adoption of professional MMA. We're hopeful that it happens in the next 6 months, which could lead way to something in Q3, Q4, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and these types of things take a long time. I mean, we worked forever to get Ontario legalized. We worked forever to get Western Australia and Victoria, two states in Australia, to overturn their bans on the octagon.
In New York, I believe.
And we worked, that's probably the most classic example. We worked for New York for, longer than each of those states, territories, and countries I just mentioned. It takes a long time when you got to go through a political process. So we're hopeful. We feel like we're making some strong advancements, but nothing to report yet.